I wasn't supposed to see his phone. It buzzed twice while Derek was in the shower, just enough to light up the screen. I glanced out of habit. We'd been married 6 years. Trust was never a question, but it was the name that froze me. Angela, and below it, a heart emoji. Angela, my best friend since college. Maid of honor at our wedding. Godmother to our kids. Sister I never had. At first I thought it was a joke, a glitch. Something stupid they were teasing each other about. Maybe something about her latest dating disaster, or a group message that auto-filled the name wrong. But then I picked it up. I don't know what possessed me. I wasn't the jealous type. But the screen was still lit, and the preview was there, clear as day. Last night was perfect. Still thinking about you. No one jokes like that. Not married men. Not with your best friend. I didn't open it, just put the phone back and walked away. But everything had already changed. Keep watching. It only gets deeper. That night, I barely slept. Derek was next to me, snoring softly like nothing was wrong, like our life wasn't disintegrating beneath our feet. The next morning, I tried to be normal, made breakfast, packed the kids' lunches, asked him how his meetings were going. He said, "Same as always," without looking up from his coffee. Angela texted me too. Something about a spa day. I stared at the screen, my fingers numb. I told her I was busy. She replied with a thumbs up. 3 days I lived like that. Number hollow. Watching them both, studying every word, every glance, every pause between messages. Until Friday night. Derek was drunk, half asleep on the couch, phone dangling in his hand. I picked it up, quiet, careful, like it was a bomb. No passcode. And there they were. Photos, messages, voice notes. 4 months of betrayal, catalogued and time-stamped. Hotel receipts, inside jokes. Whispered, "I love you," was recorded like sacred vows. One video. I watched 5 seconds. That was enough. I threw up in the kitchen sink. He never woke up. The next morning, I packed a bag, dropped the kids off with my sister, and drove. I didn't know where. I just needed air, space, anything but that house, that bed, that smell of him. I ended up at a motel off E94. Cheap, ugly, with paper-thin walls and a broken vending machine. I sat on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and cried until my face went numb. Then I did the one thing I'd been dreading. I called Angela. She picked up on the second ring. "Hey, I was just—" "I know," I said. Silence. Then a whisper. "Marissa." I hung up. It wasn't just betrayal. It was surgical. 2 people I trusted most had carved a hole through my life and didn't even flinch. But I wasn't going to bleed quietly. I was going to make them remember every inch of what they took from me. We met in a blizzard. Derek had slid into a snowbank outside my building, half his car buried in frozen sludge. I was walking home with 2 bags of groceries and a broken umbrella. He offered me a ride after digging himself out. I said no. He smiled and said, "Well, at least let me carry your milk." That was Derek, persistent, warm, disarming in that quiet, old-fashioned way that makes you think, maybe good men do still exist. 3 years later, we were married, bought a brick house just north of Logan Square, had our first child within the year, then another. We weren't perfect, but we laughed. We danced barefoot in the kitchen. We whispered about dreams when the kids were asleep. Angela was always there. Sleepovers, summer barbecues, holding my hand through my first pregnancy. She stayed over the night I went into labor early, was the first one to hold my son after Derek. When her fiancé cheated on her, I held her hair while she threw up, then held her hand through the divorce. I let her cry on my couch. I told Derek, She's family now. He nodded. He nodded. Looking back now, I can see it. The 2 long hugs. The glances they thought were subtle. The way she started showing up in tight jeans and Derek's favourite whiskey. By coincidence. I told myself it was nothing, that I was paranoid, that jealousy was ugly, but jealousy would have been mercy. The truth was worse. They weren't just having an affair. They were building a world without me. That weekend I returned home. I needed answers, or maybe just to stand in my own kitchen and remind myself that I was still real. Derek was there, alone. He looked surprised when I walked in. "You're back," he said softly, like I'd gone on vacation. I stared at him for a full 10 seconds before speaking. "How long?" I asked. He didn't pretend not to understand. 4 months, he said. "Maybe more?" "Why her?" I asked. He looked away. "I don't know." "You don't know?" "I didn't plan it. It just happened." I laughed, loud, sharp, bitter. "You just happened to fall into my best friend's body? That kind of accident?" He didn't respond. I told him to leave. He said we should talk. I said, "Not now. Not here. Not until I figure out what's left of me under all the damage." He packed a bag. I watched from the doorway. As he stepped outside, he turned. "I never stopped loving you." And I said, "You just stopped acting like it." That night, I opened a bottle of red wine I'd been saving for our 10th anniversary. I drank it alone. The kids were still with my sister. I sat on the floor of our bedroom, surrounded by wedding photos and baby clothes, and let myself fall apart properly. No one to hear me but the walls. Angela hadn't called again, but I knew she would. They always do. Not because they're sorry, but because they need to feel forgiven. She could wait. I wasn't done breaking yet. 2 days later, I opened a new bank account. Then a second one, in another name, just in case. I met with a lawyer the next morning. Referral from a friend of a friend. Her name was Teresa Cohen. Mid-40s, sharp voice, sharper eyes. She didn't ask if I was sure. She just said, "Tell me everything." So I did. And when I finished, she said, "This isn't just infidelity. It's erosion. You've been slowly erased. Time to rewrite." She filed a preliminary separation order within 48 hours. I signed the papers with hands that barely trembled. The same day, Angela texted me again. "Can we talk? Just us?" I didn't reply. So she sent another. "It wasn't supposed to happen this way. I never meant to hurt you." Funny how they always say that after the knife's already in. I blocked her number. That weekend, I took the kids to the park. My son asked why Daddy wasn't coming. My daughter, she's 5, asked if I was mad at Auntie Angela. I swallowed my own scream and said, "Sometimes grown-ups forget how to be good. But we're still a family." They played in the sand while I sat on a bench, staring at the blue sky and wondering how I'd ever explain this when they were older. When they started asking real questions. When photos didn't match memories anymore. Back home, I started digging. Angela had always overshared. Half her passwords were versions of her dog's name. I cracked into her old shared photo drive, one we used back in the girls' trip days. She never removed my access. What I found made my blood go cold. Photos of the 2 of them, at my favourite winery, in my robe, at my fireplace, 1 week after I had taken the kids to visit my parents. Her hand on his chest, like she owned him, like she owned my life. Worse, receipts. Restaurant bills from when I was home alone, thinking Derek was working late. One even from my birthday. They'd spent it together. I printed every file, labelled every photo, time-stamped every lie. My lawyer called that night. We can move fast, but I need you clear-headed. I told her I'd never been clearer. Then came the drop that broke me. My neighbour, Claire, sweet and soft-spoken, stopped me outside with a hesitant smile. I just wanted to check in, she said. I didn't want to assume anything, but I saw Derek and Angela a few weeks ago, late, in the driveway. Thought you were out of town. She paused. They kissed. I managed a nod. Thank you. She touched my arm. You didn't deserve this. It was the first time someone said that out loud, and it nearly undid me. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for closure, or justice, or apologies. I was going to burn the rot from my life, even if it scorched the good with it. They had taken their shot. Now it was mine. I asked Teresa if it was legal to record a conversation in Illinois. She said, as long as one party consents, and that party can be you. So I charged my old phone, the one with the cracked screen I'd kept in a drawer for emergencies, set it to record, slid it in my purse, camera peeking through the zipper. Then I texted Derek. I'll meet you. One time. Neutral ground. He suggested a cafe halfway between his new condo and our old house. I agreed. I got there early, sat facing the door, heart a sledgehammer inside my chest. My coffee went cold before he arrived. He walked in wearing the same sweater I once gave him for our anniversary. The irony was insulting. Marissa? He said, like it was normal, like everything was fine. He sat down. No hug, no apology. I let him speak first. I know you're hurt, he said, but we didn't mean for this to happen. Angela and we connected, and you were distant, with the kids, with me. Ever since work got hard and your dad passed, it was like you disappeared. I smiled, cold, steady. Is that how you justify screwing my best friend in our bed? He flinched, but didn't answer. I was grieving, I said. I was working 2 jobs. I was raising our kids while you worked late with her. And you want to talk about disappearing? He looked away. Then I leaned in. You forgot to log out of the cloud, Derek. His eyes snapped back to mine. I saw the photos, the videos, the text you sent her the night of my birthday. I wish I were spending it with you instead. His face drained of colour. I kept going. You left a digital trail so sloppy a teenager could have traced it. But you didn't care, did you? Because you thought I'd never look. Because you thought I was stupid. Because you thought I'd stay. He opened his mouth. Maybe to apologise. Maybe to lie, again. I didn't let him. I filed. You'll get the papers Monday. Teresa Cohen is my lawyer. She's requesting full custody pending your cooperation. And don't worry, I have a copy of Angela's HR records from your company. You really should have vetted your mistress better. His jaw tightened. That's low. Number what you did was low. This is survival. I stood. He grabbed my wrist, just for a second. Marissa, I never wanted to lose you. I pulled away. You did, the second you chose her. And then I left. Back in the car, I hit stop on the recording. It was crystal clear. Every word. That night, Teresa sent the file to her assistant for transcription and submission. She also sent me a voice note. If this goes to court, that recording might save your custody case. I listened to it twice, not because I needed the legal value, but because I wanted to hear my own voice, steady, strong, done. That weekend, Angela showed up at my sister's door. I wasn't expecting her. She looked thin, hollowed out, not the woman who'd once laughed in my kitchen like she belonged there. I just wanted to say sorry, she said. I didn't let her in. She held up a necklace, the one I'd once lent her for a wedding. I think this is yours? I took it. No, thank you. She started crying. I thought he'd leave you. I thought he loved me. I stared at her. He did leave me. He just never stopped lying. Not to you, not to me. Then I closed the door. The divorce was finalized in early spring. There was no courtroom drama, no last-minute objections. Just a clerk, a few signatures, and the quiet closing of a door that had already been shut long ago. I got full custody of the children. Derek was granted supervised weekends. Angela was never mentioned. Some endings come with fireworks. Mine came with silence, and I welcomed it. I moved into a 2-bedroom cottage on the edge of Humboldt Park. Nothing fancy, just warm wood floors, clean windows, and enough space for me and the kids to breathe. The backyard was small, but full of light. I planted daffodils in April. The kids helped, more dirt on their faces than in the soil, but they laughed, real laughter, not the careful kind that comes after a storm. There's a new bookshelf in the living room. My books, my stories. No one rearranges them now. I cook dinner with music on again. Nina Simone, old jazz. Quiet piano on Sundays. My daughter helps stir sauces. My son sets the table. Sometimes they ask about Dad. I answer honestly, but gently. He made mistakes, I say. But we're okay now. We have each other. And that's true. I don't think of Angela much. Some wounds stop bleeding even if the scar stays. I don't hate her. I just don't carry her with me anymore. Hate is heavy, and I've learned to travel light. Last week, I sat down at my desk, the one I used to write at in college, long before marriage and mortgages and betrayals, and I wrote the first page of a story. Not about pain, about healing, about a woman who lost everything, and then remembered she was never the kind of woman who stayed lost for long. So if you're sitting there tonight with a quiet ache in your chest, if you've been betrayed, forgotten, or replaced, let me tell you something. From one heart to another. You're not broken. You're rebuilding. And one day, sooner than you think, you'll look around and realize that you didn't just survive. You created something better. Something that's finally yours. If this story spoke to you, if it made you feel seen, take a second to like the video. And if you want to hear more stories about strength, healing, and finding your way back home, subscribe. We'll be here. One story at a time.